Welcome back to the channel, and today we're looking at the QSP Ripley. This is a nice and full-size EDC knife coming in at 8 inches overall. It has a 3.5 inch drop point blade of 14C 28N steel, one of my favorite budget steels. It takes a screaming sharp edge. You can hold it for a reasonable amount of time, and it's rather tough. Not to mention it has good corrosion resistance. And this particular variation has a nice reflective stone wash finish there. You can also get it in a coated blade and other scale options as well. This one has a very small row of effective jimping. However, I do think they could have extended it or put a little patch about right here. It doesn't really bother me all that much. I don't have to have jimping on my pocket knives. We got a nice, decent thinness on that tip there. Great for doing piercing tasks. Not so much for doing drag cuts, just because it's a higher tip. So you got to come up a little bit higher. And my initial reaction is just to use that belly if I'm, in a hurry. But if you wanted to, you could, possibly use that tip if you need to do something very detailed. It just feels more natural to use the belly. My first gripe on the knife is got to be this sharpening choil, and I don't understand. QSP does this a lot. It's already flaring out right there, and it's only going to get worse and worse. This would have been perfect if they would have brought this plunge line all the way to the back right here. Then you would have had sharpening life all the way to right here. But now, being that plunge line sloping into the edge, it's going to continue to flare with every sharpening unless I do something about it. Now, it's a decently easy fix. Just got to be careful. The crossbar is sitting in a little channel right there, so you have a good bit up here in the front that you could scoop out, grind it, however you want to do it. You could do it. It's not, that one's a lot easier than some of them are. This one has a nice full flat grind that comes down to around 20 thousandths behind the edge, and my particular knife has a 20 degrees per side edge bevel. Let's see what it can do. This knife came ridiculously sharp out of box, and I've always had really good experiences when testing the QSP knives. They always usually perform pretty darn good, and this one's definitely no exception. That full flat grind is slicing very, very well, and it's got pretty decent thinness to that edge geometry also, so that's also helping. It has a good bit of belly on it, so you're gonna have to be careful that you're not, doing a long slicing cut because you're going to slide out of the material. However, this type or this size cardboard should be no problem whatsoever. At least it wasn't for me, and it's push cutting. So now we're going to test the air goes and see how that edge wants to bite. And right away, it's biting really well. So we start slowly increasing pressure, slowly, and then once I start getting all the way to full pressure, I'm starting to feel these jimps that have been formed from the milling on top of the scales. It's on the top, bottom, and it's not the most comfortable when you put a lot of pressure down. But look how it's popping that half-inch sisal rope. I was kind of like, wow. After the first cut, it made short work of it. I mean, it feels like you ever cut some soft nylon rope that's fairly easy to cut. That's kind of what it felt like the first few slices. Now, because of the higher tip and the more swooping belly, this type of cut is very easy, and you can see me using that pointer finger grip, and that's because it's sharp enough to do so. I don't usually do that grip unless it has a really good edge on it, and I don't usually hold it for this amount of time. I tried to do this any chance I can so I can try to relieve that blister, that permanent blister I got from doing all these tests. And yeah, this one was probably, I tested I think 6 of the knives with this one that day, and this one by far was the best performer out of all of them. I'm just hoping that the next QSP that I have to test, I think it's the Turtle Punk, hopefully it's as good as this one is. But yeah, definitely enjoyed it. I think I cut like 180 cuts, and it was a breeze. Now see, you can kind of use that tip, but I'm using more the tip and then the belly right there behind it. And it did really, really well through that. And it should excel at all this stuff because of the belly. And as long as it's got a nice sharp edge, which as you can see is blowing through this material, it should do great. And it'll probably do even better once I sharpen it up again, put my own edge on it, maybe even lower that edge angle back just a little bit. Yeah, it'll be a phenomenal performer like it is already. So definitely good job there, QSP. Now, I do have to say this one performed very, very well. It had a lot to do with how good of an edge it had out of box and the thinness. The geometry is pretty darn good. The edge bevel's good. And to top it off, it came extremely sharp out of box. So love seeing that. It's nothing worse than testing a dull knife. So let's check out the deployment on this knife. This is another place that this one shines. It has a crossbar lock, and the detent pressure caused by the tension from the, they call it, I think, glide lock, is outstanding. Just watch this. I mean, this thing rockets out. Super smooth riding on bearings. Yeah, it's got a very nice action. It took a pretty hard push to get that to go out. That is very, very nicely done. You can see right here, that's where the blade is catching right there from the Omega Springs. Yeah, sucks it in there. Let me show you that again. Watch this. All right, we got dual thumb studs there, and thankfully we see a filler tab here. So it is a reversible pocket clip. So it's a totally ambidextrous knife. The lock itself is ambidextrous, and we have dual thumb studs. Good job, QSP. Now let's take a look at this handle area. It's pretty interesting looking. So you have G10 scales with some pretty interesting milling here. Ripples, I guess you could say, being it's the Ripley. Decent texture on the peel ply right here on the G10. I have like that slate gray or blue, whatever you want to call it. You have the QSP logo pivot that is countersunk. And we have a Torx T8 for your pivot. Unfortunately, every other screw besides the thumb stud screw is a Torx T6. Wah, wah, wah. Not the end of the world, but of course, I would have loved to at least see T8. You know, 2024, get rid of, throw away all the T6. You don't need them. This one also has pretty much a 1-to-1 blade ratio, getting all that blade they can in the handle. You just have a little bit left over here. But as you can see, if you go any further, you probably come in contact with it in the closed position. Being that you have these chamfers here and up here in the front, it gives it the feeling like it's a contoured scale. It looks to be a flat scale, but those chamfers definitely give it the feeling in hand of being contoured. Like I said earlier, you have a tip-up reversible deep carry pocket clip. They inset that clip into the G10 along with countersinking those screws. Another good job there. Perfect amount of ramp there. Tension's good. And they don't have any crazy textures underneath that pocket clip. Lanyard hole for the lanyard people out there. You have flow-through construction, 2 hourglass standoffs in the back. And they were able to keep the weight down on this one a good bit because there's no liners except for the little plate that houses this lock right here. As you can see right there, that's all you have as far as steel goes in the blade. Bringing the weight to 102.8 grams or 3.626 ounces. That's outstanding. Let's check the lockup on this one. It feels extremely solid. You can hear the thwack. Yeah, just as I thought. I can't muscle any up and down, no side to side, not even any slipping going back and forth. Very, very tight lockup. Excellent job there. Let's see if any vibrations undo it. Nope. Nice and solid. Now for some size comparisons, we have the Ontario Rat 1 and 2. It's in the middle of those. Next up, we have the QSP Swordfish and the Kaiser Brat. The Swordfish is just a hair longer and the Brat's just a hair shorter. And lastly, we have the Civivi Conspirator, which is almost identical in overall length. Then we have the Civivi Voltaic, which is just a hair shorter. Now for my nitpicks and complaints. First, we already talked about it. Sharpening choil. It's already starting to flare right here. It's only going to continue to get worse. You can see it better on this side. I just don't get why they do this. If they would have brought the plunge grind all the way to the back right here, you would have been able to sharpen it all the way to right here before it starts to flare. Now it's going to flare after the first sharpening. Now you can fix it yourself. You just got to be mindful that crossbar is sitting right here. You have a good bit of space to where you can do some work to get a better choil in there. But God, I wish we'd see it from factory. Next is the jimps on the sides of the scales. Anytime I see this right here, I hate it. My hands are already bad enough. And I'll be honest, during the testing, I did not start to feel it until I really started pushing hard into that wood. And mainly where these ripples that they have end, the peaks on both sides of that are a little pokey. And there's a hard 90-degree edge right here where it goes into this right here. So it didn't get uncomfortable till I put a lot of pressure, but it's just, why have it there? It goes all the way up right there, goes all right here. Just never a great idea in the ergonomics department, in my opinion, even if you don't have beat up hands like me. And lastly, it's gonna have to be the price. They're asking $75 for this one. Now, I'm pretty sure this is the one that is a collaboration with Keanu. So I know they gotta pay him some sort of royalty, I'm sure, for the design. But even the swordfish, I don't think this is a collaboration, but the swordfish was $70.50. I still thought that was high. If all three of those aren't deal breakers for you, I can recommend the knife. It's got beautiful, beautiful action. I mean, excellent. Some of the best crossbar lock action I've seen. This is very, very crisp, very smooth, super solid. You got a nice slicey blade. It performed really, really well. If that price is okay with you, then yeah, I'd say go for it. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave those down below. I hope everybody's having an absolute amazing day. I will see y'all on the next one. Peace. Hey, Ripley, peace.